So today we have verses 6, 7, and 8 of the Ishavasya Upanishad lined up in front of us. And we will start with verse number 6. I will chant. Yastu sarvani bhutanatmanyavanupashyati sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tato na vijugupsate. So the verse translates to, and this is the translation. I'll just do the translation, then we'll do the Sandhi Vichhed. One who, by following, sees all beings in God and in all beings God, that person does not detest anyone. Right? And I'm sharing the screen for the Sandhi Vichhed part. So you will find it easier. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So this is what the verse is, and the translation is on the screen. So let's take this up word by word. Ya is who, tu indeed or but, sarvani is all, bhutani is beings, atmani, that is in Paramatman, in God, anupashyati. So pashyati is to see, and anu is to see by following. So anu means to follow. So anupashyati becomes by following, and yoga is implied in this, the practices, and we'll discuss it as when we discuss the verse. Sarva bhuteshu, in all beings, cha, and atmanam, atmanamam, actually. So in God, tat, that person here, na, not, vijugupsate, detest or hate anyone. Right? So the translation is one who by following, yoga is implied, so by following yoga, sees all beings in God and in all beings God, that person does not detest anyone. So this is what the verse translates to. So let's chant it together. We can read it together. Yastu sarvani bhutanyat manyavanu pashyati
आत्मन्येवानुपश्यति
sarvabhuteshu
सर्वभूतेषु
चात्मानं
Atmanam.
tato na vijugupsate.
ततो न विजुगुप्सते.
Right? So let's come to the discussion now. So we discussed what this verse is saying actually a lot when we were doing the Bhagavad Gita. So it was one of the principles that we kept discussing again and again.
Adveshta sarvabhutani.
No. Tell me the
Adveshta
principle.
is not the same thing.
Tell me the principle. What principle are we talking about? It doesn't map onto any verse of the Bhagavad Gita.
Okay.
See. You have to get to the crux.
That is oneness of us and
Advaita.
Absolutely, Bina. We are talking of the oneness principle.
Oneness.
Yeah. So this verse is actually talking about the oneness principle or seeing unity in diversity. And so the Upanishad is talking at that level. Bhagavad Gita detailed out how we see oneness. And the basic way to see oneness is through the purification of body, mind, and intellect. Right? When our mind is pure, the body is pure, and the intellect is pure. Now, how do we purify the body, mind, and intellect? Yeah, anyone? This again.
Through Gyan.
Through relinquishing attachment to desires.
Yes.
And fruit of our action, giving up the desire for fruit of our action.
Absolutely.
Getting detached.
And how do we, so these are a whole set of practices, right? That were laid out before us, which are classified as the Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Gyan Yoga, right? Basically, what you all have said is correct.
Yes.
So these are the principles of, or the practices of Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Gyan Yoga, which we practice at the level of the body, mind, and intellect, respectively, so that we are able to go back to our root, which is yuj. The root of yog, the word yog is yuj, which means to reunite. Reunite, that means we have got separated from it. From what? From the essence, from our essence, right? So, unfortunately, what we talk about as yoga today, that I did yoga, we are referring only to the some asanas at the physical level, and maybe, and of course, breathing exercises, what we call pranayama, and maybe some preliminary meditation. So, but actually, if you read Patanjali's Yog Darshan, all these practices should lead to controlling our mind so that we can contemplate on God. So that is yoga. So the three yogs, or at the body, mind, and intellect level, we reduce our desires. And this is what you all said: withdraw from the world, gain equanimity, and make ourselves available to focus on that Paramatman.
I used to like what you used to say. Karma Yoga is for the body, Bhakti Yoga is for the mind, and Gyan Yoga is for the intellect.
Yeah, that's correct. So that is what it is. So at the three levels, right, respectively. So it is then, once we have purified ourselves, and then we will start seeing the oneness across the creation. And in Bhagavad Gita, I'm keep referring to Bhagavad Gita because we spent a long time studying Bhagavad Gita or reading it. From chapter 2 on words till the end, chapter 18, we have been, Lord Krishna has been advising Arjuna, and through Arjuna, of course, us, to see oneness across all beings. And he mentioned that a jnani, a wise person, sees oneness across the creation, across all beings, all chapters. You will find some verse or the other which mentions this. So, why does that happen? Because a wise person understands essentially that we want the same bliss and peace. So, whatever bliss and peace I am seeking is what each one of you is seeking in the world. All of us are seeking the same thing. And that is essentially what we are made up of, that one reality, that Paramatman. But this, in the world, hurly-burly of the world, we just get so caught up in going behind our senses that our mind loses its connection. Mind, and through the mind, the intellect, we lose our connection with that Paramatman. So when the mind is quietened, that means when it's not chasing an object of the world, when it's not becoming greedy, coveting, then this knowledge dawns on us. Then it settles on us, it comes to us. And this was referred, if you may recollect, as the Satvik Gyan in Bhagavad Gita chapter 18, where were doing the analysis of everything, our entire personality: buddhi, dhriti, gyan, karm, karta, in those, that sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic mode. So specifically verse number 20, now I'll quote for you, which mentions that by which one sees the one indestructible reality in all beings, unseparate, inseparate, know that knowledge to be sattvic. So Upanishads are talking at this level, right? So a wise person recognizes that self in all activities, in all beings, entire creation. That person sees everyone as an expression of that Paramatman. And so the person sees a homogeneous expression and manner of functioning in the heterogeneity of whatever we see in the creation. Just as, now we'll go back to our standard examples, which we discussed a lot in the Bhagavad Gita. Electricity. An electrical engineer understands that the electricity functioning through all the electrical equipments as well as is the same, firstly. So the same electricity is producing heat in one equipment, is producing the effect of coolness in another one, is providing motion in another one, but it's the same electricity. And that electricity, that energy also exists even without the existence of an equipment. So without manifestation also that energy is there. So in case of creation, actually, the beings we appear to be so different. So I'm so different from each, I mean, each one of us is so different, even in the human species. We are so different as a species from, let's say, dogs or canines or carnivores or a tiger family. So the plant kingdom, animals, humans, they all differ from, they are all different kinds of being. And each individual within the species is different. So that is there. But in all these forms that are distinct and separate, there is one element that is common and holds it together, and that is the all pervading reality, which is beyond nationalities, races, civilizations, time periods, etc. And now, can anyone say the two chapters that talked about this relationship? What this verse is talking about, and this relationship that we are talking about, that all all different beings are come out, emanate from that Paramatman, and Paramatma, in Paramatman are all those beings. Go back to that Paramatman, both ways. Can anyone recollect? We had discussed this in detail when we were doing those two chapters.
Yeah, the cosmic form chapter.
That was chapter
10.
11, Vishwarup
11,
Darshan.
Yeah, Vishwarup
And also
Darshan,
10, Vibhuti.
the one before that, Vibhuti
Yeah,
Yoga.
10 and 11.
Yeah, so Vibhuti Yoga was talking about the Lord being the best in each one, right? So that was one to many. And the Yog Darshan, Vishwarup Darshan Yoga chapter was talking about how everything goes back into that Paramatman, into the Vishwarup, right? So those were the two chapters. So one is electricity example, the other examples are clay. I mean, so all pots, jewelry, anything that is made of clay, the essence of that object is clay. All jewelry which is made out of gold, the essence of it is gold. So it can be in the form of a ring, earring, anklet, toe ring, necklace, whatever. And of course, the electricity example that we have taken. So what happens? We get caught up in the name and form, and we miss the inherent underlying common connect. We do not see the underlying principle or the unifying principle, and that is why we miss the oneness. The wise person sees oneness in all beings, and he or she rises beyond the plurality of name and form and establishes oneness with the entire creation. The unifying principle sees oneness across the board. All the names and form disappear into the Paramatman, just as the ocean is the essence and is an unbroken mass of water. But as the waves play in the water, the waves appear to be different. So the wave on the ocean, any wave on the ocean has no existence apart from that of the ocean. It is born out of ocean, it is nothing but the ocean and falls back into the ocean. Each wave appears to have an individuality that is transient till it meets into the ocean again. When we see this oneness of the same ocean water in all the waves, when we are objective, when we are seeing it as a third party, we see it, that is the same ocean. But when we see each one of us, when we are part of that oneness, we lose the objectivity, we become subjective. And therefore, we seem to lose that oneness principle. However, the wise person continues in that state of objectivity and sees that pure consciousness working through me, the next person, my neighbor, the murderer, the saint, through everyone, and through the birds, sparrows, plants, and the universe. Now, in that state, when you see that the my essence and the other person's essence is the same, how can you detest anyone? Because the entire creation is in God and God is in the entire creation. So, with this principle, once we understand, hatred is not possible. And that is what the simple verse says. Let's move on to verse number 7.
Can I just 1 minute say
Sure.
something about?
Sure. These are supposed to be interactive sessions, and that's why I was not planning to record. You're most
Okay.
welcome to interrupt whenever you want.
Okay,
We
no, I just wanted to add that following Sadhguru, he says the same thing. He says ki you once you start seeing everybody like yourself, then we will not even need morality in this world because you will be
Absolutely.
good. You know, if you love somebody, you can't harm that person. So
Absolutely.
once you start functioning like that, that everything is me only, then there'll be no hatred, like you said, no detestation. You won't, you'll be loving everybody. You'll never harm anybody.
Absolutely. And that is what the next verse is kind of concluding. I mean, these two verses actually form a set. So we are just coming to that, right? So I'll share my screen once again. Where does that share thing go? Yeah. So let's read the verse. I will chant first time, then we will do the Sandhi Vicheda, and then we will read. यस्मिन् सर्वाणि भूतान्यात्मैव भूतविजानतः तत्र को मोह काः शोकैकमनुपश्यतः. So the verse translates to knowing all beings to be located inside God, as we discussed in verse number 6, just as in one's own self. What is attachment and what is sorrow? As all beings are in God. Or a simpler translation is there is no attachment and sorrow to a person who sees the unity of all beings in that one God. So let's take this up word by word. Yasmin, in whom, Sarvani is all Bhutani beings, Atma is that Paramatman, God, Abhut, have become, Vijanatah is one who knows, and this is that perfect knowledge, right? Tatra, in that state, or to such a person, Kaha is what? Moh is attachment, delusion. Ka, what is shok, sorrow. Ek tav manu pashyatah. So ekta is oneness, manu pashyatah is that person views or sees. So knowing all beings to be located inside God, as in verse 6, just as in one's own self, what is attachment, delusion, and what is sorrow to such a person as all beings, such a person sees all beings in that one God. So let's read it together. यस्मिन् सर्वाणि भूतान्यात् मैव बभूद विजानतः तत्र को मोह कः शोक एक तव मनु पश्यतः. So let's move with the go on to the discussion of this. So we discussed the oneness principle. It's continuing with that oneness principle. Now, what are we seeking? See, what are the core values that each one of us in this world is seeking? Would you like to answer that? All of us are seeking the same things.
Moksha.
Moksha, something which seems very far
Freedom,
away.
ease, then
happiness.
symptoms, sorrow, grief, pain.
Freedom, na? Freedom from all this. Right?
Yes, right. Freedom from.
Huh. Are we or not seeking love,
Yes.
bliss?
That's what
Yes.
it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Happiness.
I mean, some of you would have said that. Yes. Compassion and freedom. I mean, freedom from sorrow, grief, and all the, all those things, right? So we are seeking the same thing. And these are the core values that form the basis of life. Therefore, we should be putting in effort in that direction, right? Because we are all seeking the same things, all, love, bliss, compassion, freedom, etc., etc. Now, let's just scratch the surface and go to the details. What happens is, see, when we are looking for a beautiful physique, we are very, most of us are function more at the gross level. So we want to look beautiful, we want to have a good physique. What do? We spend a lot of time and effort and resources in gymnasiums, workouts, diet plans, beauticians, etc., right? Uh, Nothing wrong there. However, we should take this forward, move on to the next level, mind and intellect. So, for the development of our intellect, our discretion, we should spend and invest in sadhana, satsang, what we are doing, prayers, meditation. Right? So, we should also move in that direction. Now, coming back to the values, see, we all live in a lovely society, wherever we are, lovely neighborhood. And if there was to be a contest on the most talented person in the locality, or the best looking or the most smart person in that locality, who would we want to win? If I'm competing, myself. All of us would want that. Right? This, and nothing wrong there. This is because we understand perfection as excelling. And most importantly, now the catch comes in. The We see it as excelling over others. Right? So that is the competitive spirit that comes into us. However, so I talked of one set of qualities: smartness, beauty, talent. Now, when it comes to, so then we want to be better than others. Let's look at the second set of qualities: cleanliness, sharing, loving, forgiveness, compassion. We want to have this, but we want others also to have it, right? Here, the oneness principle comes in. But the same does not apply to the previous set of qualities. That is because, to that extent, we are not seeing oneness across the board. Our feeling of competition, in case of being the most talented, most beautiful, etc., that competition comes in. Now, that feeling of competitiveness is what we need to work upon and gradually change it to oneness. And if you will go back to the gunas when we were talking in the Bhagavad Gita, this was the rajas quality where you see differences, right? So just trying to build the connect there. And we should understand that all of us, all creatures, in fact, act in this world from the womb to the tomb, seeking the same thing: greater joy, more satisfaction, elevating our experiences, searching happiness. So, we are acting for the same goals. Now, the goal being the same, this was considered taken up as the attribute was Sukham in chapter 18 of the Bhagavad Gita. Why are the paths adopted by us different? And again, this was comprehensively explained in the chapter 18 of the Bhagavad Gita, because we have different textures of our buddhi, intellect, and dhriti, steadfastness. Right? That's why we act or react in different ways. Even though the goal, ultimate goal for each one of us is the same, moksha is also correct, which Bina had mentioned, but moksha seems slightly far away for us, right? But in and through all this, we will actually go reach moksha. So the difference in our paths is because of our differences, different textures of our um, intellect, our understanding, our steadfastness. And this is very comprehensively put as the two different paths in the Kathopanishad. The Shreya path, which is the correct path, the righteous path, which is unpleasant in the beginning but is blissful later on. And the Priya path, in which we seek instant gratification. So I eat something, I must be satisfied immediately. I go and spend the money, I should buy something, wear it immediately, right? Instant gratification. This path is very pleasant in the beginning because your senses or whatever you're desiring is the need is immediately fulfilled, but is fraught with sorrow later on. The Shreya path is the path of course correction because it's taking us inward, it's leading to inner self control, and it is aimed for self perfection, providing gratification which is immense and long lasting, actually eternal bliss. The Shreya path is extremely difficult to follow. Doing the right thing is very, very difficult. Following the traffic rules, standing in a queue, these are very, very gross examples, but it's the same thing. So it's extremely arduous and painful, especially when you see a long queue in front of you, right? But once the direction is corrected and the discipline and control is inculcated, our faculties are freed up of the worldly desires, and we engage ourselves in the pursuit of the self. We are not wasting our energies thinking how to jump the queue, how to skip the red light. It's okay. The light is red, fine. 60 minutes, 60 seconds, it's showing me, I'll have to wait, right? My mind is freed up. I can think of Paramatman. And in that bliss, we experience the subtlest and the purest experiences. And actually, this discipline is, I mean, spirituality is very a distant field here. Even in whatever you pursue in the world, be it education, promotion, power, money, you have to have this discipline. And again, to inculcate that discipline is very painful in the beginning. But the result of the self effort and the self discipline gradually start coming back to one. So, the correct path, the righteous path, is arduous, is difficult. Why? Because our body, mind, and intellect wants to go onto the easy path, which is skipping things. So instead of my tennis practice, I go for a party. It's easier to do that, right? Instead of controlling myself, all my friends are going for the party, but I say, no, okay, it's my time for tennis practice. I have to go there. And Bhagavad Gita continuously talked about acting without attachment and not to function on likes and dislikes, right? Only functioning on what we like to do and rejecting everything that we don't like is not advised. And Bhagavad Gita continuously talked about not doing the same thing, because what happens is then the likes and dislikes will start dominating us. And actually, if you look at it, since the childhood, we are pampered by our parents, and we as parents pamper our children into catering to their likes and dislikes. Okay. And you can think about it. I don't want to digress too much on this because this is Bhagavad Gita kind of a topic. But what happens is that once we start functioning on these likes and dislikes, the likes and dislikes have a hold over us. They start dominating us. And this leads to the fluctuation between the opposites, the pair of opposites. The experiences, we always then are moving from happiness to sorrow, honor and dishonor, pleasure and pain. So the path, which appears to be nectarine in the beginning, because immediately instant gratification, our objective is met. So it's very nectarine. It's a great path in the beginning. It soon turns to agitation and sorrow because the world cannot constantly cater to our likes and dislikes. And again, the practices of those Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga at the level of the body, mind, and intellect, respectively, enable us to purify ourselves and do a course correction and continue on the course. We do not keep vacillating, taking one step towards our self and two steps outwards into the world, because the net result is one step out into the world. So we are moving away from ourselves. So we continue on this path of cleansing of our body, mind, and intellect through the practices of Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. And that is what will lead us to the oneness principle. When we will leave our selfish, egocentric, greedy nature and treat everyone as we would like to be treated by everyone. So, when we start seeing the entire creation as one, of course, we do not detest anyone, as we discussed in the last verse, and nor will we be attached to anyone because they are all equal, nor will we have grief because everyone is going through it. So, it's okay. You learn to accept the situation. And in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, so one of the earliest chapters, verse number 55, I'm reading the translation. It says the same thing actually. The translation reads, when one completely casts off all desires of the mind and is satisfied in the self, in that Paramatman, by the self. So through yourself, you reach that Paramatman. One is said to be of steady wisdom. Steady wisdom, this was the term used in the Bhagavad Gita, was Sthit Pragnya, right? Or the wise one. So between in Ishavasya, we just need two verses 6 and 7. They make the goal very clear to us that we have to put in our effort towards becoming one with that Paramatman. So once that is clear, the next verse number 8, goes on to describe to us the nature of that Paramatman. So let's take that up.